Now, a group of British MPs says the government is not doing its job properly by refusing to plan for the possibility of a failed EU trade agreement. The Commons Foreign Affairs Committee has warned there's a real prospect that trade negotiations with the UK and the EU could fail within 2 years. Let's get more on this story because the report comes just days before the UK Prime Minister Theresa May is expected to trigger Article 50. Ben Harris-Quinney is a chairman of the Group, a UK Conservative think tank, joining me live from Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. Many thanks for joining us, Ben. So this report once again highlighting the real possibility of the UK coming out of this 2-year process without a deal. Do you agree with it?
Well, I don't think that is exactly what the report said. The report said there is a possibility that after the sanctioned 2-year process, no concrete deal will have been reached. It's not saying it's a likelihood, and I think it's quite right that the government prepares for all eventualities. But we also have to remember that the European Union itself is in very uncertain times. There may not even be a European Union in 2 years' time. So there are a great many possibilities as to what could happen. And what this report is simply saying is that we should prepare for as many eventualities as possible.
So how do you prepare for an eventuality like that? I mean, realistically?
Well, I think again, it comes back to what is meant by Brexit. There is the 2-year sanction process, which is part of our treaty with the European Union. But more generally, I think it's obvious to most people that it's going to take Britain decades to rebalance and reform its position in the world. So it depends on what issue we are looking at as to exactly the impact of uncertainty or no deal having occurred in 2 years might be. The Select Committee report raises specific concerns about British citizens living in continental Europe and likewise about European citizens living in the United Kingdom. And I see no reason why during the 2-year Brexit process, the government can't adequately address that and make contingency plans for that and for a number of other things. But what if you're talking about things like trade deals with other countries or the finer points of foreign policy or how NATO and an EU military might work, I think it's very likely that those things will not be completed in the 2-year process, but they don't need to be.
What do you think would be the damage to the UK and the UK economy if we were in a situation where 2 years from now there was no deal at all?
Well, look, let's roll back. This 2-year deadline is a sort of arbitrary deadline that is part of the European Union treaty. There's nothing that happens to the United Kingdom or to the European Union necessarily after 2 years. And it really depends on what the snagging issue is in terms of the result that may have to the markets. I think there are so many uncertainties as to the future of the European Union that the markets are going to be reacting to any number of different events like the elections in France, the elections in Germany, the elections in Holland, the potential collapse of the Eurozone. The individual deals that are going on between the United Kingdom and the European Union is going to be one small part of that. And I think provided in that 2-year process there is adequate contingency planning and adequate acknowledgement of how things could go and what the potential options are, I don't think you're going to see a sudden cliff edge at 2 years where the market suddenly reacts. I think it will be a far more gradual process than that.
Well, we'll have to see. Ben Harris-Quinney, chairman of the Group, many thanks for joining us here on TRT World.